cruise ship is a city that floats. 3,000 people, 15 decks, restaurants, bars, theaters, pools, medical facilities, a jail. Everything a small town has, except jurisdiction. When something happens on land, you call the police. When something happens at sea, you call the ship's head of security, who works for the cruise line. The same company that sold you the ticket is the same company that investigates what happened to you. And when the ship docks, you're in a different country than when you boarded. Different laws, different standards of evidence, different definitions of what matters. People disappear from cruise ships, not metaphorically. They vanish from a floating structure in the middle of the ocean, and no one can explain where they went. The industry's own data says it happens more than 20 times a year. These are 3 true stories from people who made it home. Barely. My wife and I went on a Caribbean cruise for our honeymoon. 7 nights, Eastern Caribbean. Neither one of us had been on a cruise before. The first 3 days were perfect, the kind of vacation you see in the commercials. Sunsets, cocktails, all you can eat everything. On the 4th night, we went to bed around midnight. Our cabin was on deck 6. Interior, no balcony, no window. A small room with a bed, a bathroom, and a door with an electronic lock. You tap your ship card, the light turns green, and you're in. Simple. I woke up at 3 a.m. because something felt wrong. Not a sound, not a movement, a feeling. That sensation where your sleeping brain registers a change in the environment before your conscious mind catches up. I opened my eyes. The cabin was dark. My wife was asleep next to me. The door was open. Not wide open, maybe 8 inches. Enough to see the fluorescent light from the hallway cutting a rectangle across the carpet. The electronic lock was engaged. The deadbolt indicator showed locked, but the door was ajar. I got up and looked into the hallway. Empty, both directions. Silent. I pulled the door shut, checked the lock, and went back to bed. I told myself the lock must have malfunctioned. Ship vibrations, humidity, whatever. Doors come open sometimes. In the morning, I went to guest services and reported it. I asked them to check the lock log. Every time a keycard taps the lock, it records the card number and timestamp. They pulled the log. Our 2 keycards were the only ones that had opened the door all week, except for one entry at 2:47 a.m. that matched neither of our cards. A 3rd card, a crew-level key card, the kind that opens every cabin on the ship. Guest services got very quiet. They called the head of security. He came down personally. He told us that a crew member had used a master keycard to enter our cabin at 2:47 a.m. He was inside for approximately 4 minutes. Then he left. I asked what the crew member was doing in our cabin at 3 a.m. The security officer said they were investigating the matter. I asked if we could see the hallway camera footage. He said it was being reviewed internally. The crew member was removed from duty. That's what they told us. Removed from duty. They wouldn't tell us his name. They wouldn't tell us his position. They wouldn't tell us what he did during those 4 minutes or why he chose our cabin. He spent 3 more days on that ship. 3 more nights sleeping behind a door that someone had opened in the dark. We pushed the dresser against it every night. We took shifts staying awake. On the last night, I asked the security officer one more question. I said, "Was this the first time this crew member used a master key to enter a guest cabin at night?" He said he couldn't answer that. He didn't say no. A woman, I'll call her Ava, took a solo cruise. Mediterranean, 10 days. She'd done it before. She liked the freedom of traveling alone, setting her own schedule, not answering to anyone. She felt safe on cruise ships because of the cameras, the staff, the other passengers. There's always someone around. On day 3, she noticed a man. He was at the buffet when she was at the buffet. He was at the pool when she was at the pool. He was on the same shore excursion in Santorini. She told herself she was being paranoid. It's a ship. Everyone goes to the same places. Day 4, she changed her routine deliberately. Ate dinner at 9 instead of 7. Went to the gym in the morning instead of the evening. Visited the library instead of the pool deck. He was there. Every time. Not close. Not standing next to her. Not approaching. But there. 2 tables away at dinner. 3 machines down at the gym. Sitting in the corner of the library with a book he never turned a page of. Day 5, she reported it to guest services. She described the man. Tall, early 40s, dark hair, glasses, wearing a blue polo shirt she'd seen him in 3 times. The guest services agent typed something into the computer and frowned. She typed more. She called the supervisor. The supervisor looked at the screen, looked at Ava, and said, "We don't have a passenger matching that description on this sailing." Ava said she must have described him wrong. The supervisor said it wasn't a matter of description. They'd searched every parameter: height, approximate age, hair color. She asked Ava if the man could be a crew member. Ava said he didn't wear a uniform or a name tag. The supervisor checked the crew manifest. No match. There was a man on the ship. Ava had seen him every day for 5 days. He was not in the passenger system. He was not in the crew system. He was on the ship, but according to the ship's records, he did not exist. Security asked Ava to point him out the next time she saw him. She agreed. She went to dinner that night and scanned the room. He wasn't there. She went to the pool deck the next morning. Not there. The library, the gym, the buffet. Gone. For the remaining 5 days of the cruise, she never saw him again. He simply wasn't there anymore. Or he was somewhere she wasn't looking. Ava filed a formal report with the cruise line after disembarking. They said they'd review their records and camera footage. She followed up 3 times over 2 months. They never provided an explanation. They never confirmed or denied that a person matching her description was on the ship. Ava told me that the thing that keeps her up at night isn't the man. It's the 5 days where he matched her movements perfectly. Breakfast, pool, gym, shore excursion, and the cruise line system had no record of him. Either their system failed catastrophically, or someone was on that ship who was never supposed to be found. 10 decks, 3,000 people, and one person who, on paper, was never there. This is the one that made me never want to get on a cruise ship. A woman, I'll call her Rachel, was on a Caribbean cruise with 2 friends. Day 6, they'd been drinking, having a good time, and around 1:30 in the morning, her friends went back to their cabin. Rachel wanted fresh air. She walked out to the exterior deck on the starboard side, deck 10, one of the upper decks with a walking path and a railing overlooking the ocean. It was 2 in the morning. The deck was empty. The ship was cutting through open water. No land visible in any direction. The only lights were from the ship itself, the glow from the upper decks reflecting off the waves below. Rachel leaned on the railing and looked out at the water. She said it was peaceful. The engine hum, the wind, the stars. The first quiet moment she'd had in days. Then she felt hands on her lower back. Not brushing, not bumping. 2 hands, flat, pressing forward, pushing her toward the railing. Deliberately, with force. She grabbed the railing with both hands and screamed. The pressure stopped. She spun around. The deck was empty. The walking path stretched 30 feet in each direction before curving around the ship's structure. No one, no footsteps, no sound except the wind and the ocean. She ran. She ran back to the interior door, through the corridor, down 2 flights of stairs, and into her friend's cabin. She was shaking so badly she couldn't get her key card to work. Her friends opened the door. She told them what happened. In the morning, they went to security together. Rachel gave a statement. She described the location, deck 10, starboard side, approximately amidships. She described the time, around 2 a.m. She described the feeling, 2 hands, flat, center of her lower back, pushing forward toward the railing with clear intent. The security officer took notes. Then he said something that Rachel said nearly stopped her heart. The exterior camera on that section of deck 10 has been out of service for 3 days. No camera. The one stretch of exterior deck where someone could push a passenger over the railing, and the camera had been down for 72 hours. Rachel asked if it was a coincidence. The officer said he couldn't speculate. Rachel asked if anything else had happened on that section of the deck. The officer hesitated. Then he said, carefully, that on the ship's previous voyage, the sailing immediately before Rachel's, a passenger had gone overboard from the starboard side of deck 10. That case was ruled accidental. Alcohol was believed to be a factor. No foul play was suspected. Rachel asked, was the camera working during that incident? The officer said he couldn't answer that. Rachel's case was logged. No suspect was identified. No witnesses came forward. The camera was repaired before the ship reached its next port. The report was filed with the flag state, the Bahamas, not the United States, because that's how maritime law works. The ship flies a Bahamian flag, which means Bahamian authorities investigate crimes at sea, even when every person involved is American. Rachel told me she thinks about the railing every day, not just her hands gripping it. She thinks about what would have happened if she hadn't grabbed it, if she had been leaning forward instead of straight, if the push had been harder, if the person who had used their body weight instead of just their hands. She said the worst part is the ocean at 2 a.m. in the middle of the Caribbean. The water is black. If she'd gone over, she would have hit the surface in the dark, surrounded by nothing, and the ship would have kept moving. By the time anyone realized she was missing, the ship would have been miles away. The average survival time for a person in open ocean at night without a life vest is 4 hours. That's if the fall doesn't kill you. That's if you stay conscious. That's if even someone knows to look. Rachel doesn't go on cruises anymore. Her friends don't either. She said she can't look at a railing the same way. Any railing. A balcony, a bridge, a rooftop. She grabs on now. Everywhere she goes. She grabs on, and she holds. Never walk the exterior decks alone after midnight. Always deadbolt your cabin door with the physical latch, not just the electric lock. And if something happens to you at sea, file your report the moment you disembark on U.S. soil. Don't wait for the cruise line to investigate themselves. Send me your story, link in the description. I read every one. Subscribe if you're new, and maybe think twice before booking that cruise.